Hello friends, in today's video lecture, we will see the concept of secondary memory. जब भी secondary memory को mention किया जाता है, तो we call that secondary memory as a secondary storage. Under this secondary memory, we will see what is secondary memory, then some characteristics of secondary memory, its comparison with the primary memory, that is random access memory, we have already seen in the previous lecture. Then few examples of secondary storages, secondary memory, like hard disk drive, solid state drive is there, floppy disk, compact disk, that is CD, digital versatile disk, that is DVD, Blu-ray disk is there, pen drive, and the SD cards we use in our mobile phones. Let's see all these one by one. जैसे हमने previous lecture में देखा था, the CPU is basically heart of computer. Means for processing purpose, this CPU is designed. CPU fetches instructions from the cache memory if available. If the instructions or the data are not available, in that case it fetches instruction from the RAM, and RAM fetches instruction from the secondary storage or data from the secondary storage. And after completion of data, after processing, for temporary purpose data stored there in the RAM, and for permanent purpose data stored there in the secondary storage. Means here RAM stores data temporarily, and secondary memory store data permanently. So this is the graphical representation of processing. Means how data is processed. Data is processed with the help of processor. It fetches instructions from the cache memory available there. So if it is not available, then it fetches data or instruction from the RAM, and the data is not available in the RAM, it takes data from the secondary storage. And at the time of storing, reverse operation is done. Means from processor to RAM and RAM to secondary storage. And in our computer, we use hard disk drive as a secondary storage. Hard disk drive or SSD, nowadays we are using solid state drive. So what is secondary memory? ये मैंने अभी graphical representation में आपको बता दिया. That data processing is done with primary memory, which store data for temporary purpose. Here you can see the primary memory is located here between the CPU and the secondary storage. This is primary memory, that is known as RAM, random access memory. And after processing of data or instruction, we need some permanent storage. That permanent storage is nothing but the secondary memory. So in case of computer, it is hard disk drive or SSD, that is solid state drive we are using these days. This secondary memory is used to store data that comes from the primary memory, that is from the RAM after processing. And to store data in the secondary memory, some techniques are there, like use of replication, data protection, or recovery techniques are there to copy data from primary storage system to secondary storage. And for backup purpose, this secondary memory is used. Means you might have heard about पोर्टेबल हार्ड डिस्क ड्राइव. आपने कभी पेन ड्राइव के बारे में सुना होगा, एसडी कार्ड के बारे में सुना होगा. मीन्स प्राइमरी मेमोरी का बैकअप तो इसमें होता ही है, बट अलॉन्ग विद दैट वी कैन यूज दिस एज ए पोर्टेबल storage. Here are some features or characteristics of secondary memory. First one is the internal or external to computer. So here we can connect this secondary memory inside the computer. So that is known as internal, or you can connect this externally. With the help of some cables, we can connect that secondary memory to computer externally. So this memory, that is secondary storage, is actually permanent storage. It stores data permanently. The secondary memory is non-volatile in nature. Means you, after performing operation, you save data there in the secondary memory. So whenever there is a power interruption, in that case it doesn't affect the data. Means there is no loss of data. That is non-volatile. This secondary memory is having larger space we can analyze our system, that in our system there is 8 GB RAM and 500 GB SSD. So larger space is available there in the secondary memory, and this secondary memory is basically inexpensive, means this is actually cheaper than the primary memory. Okay, that is RAM we use there in the computer. So it has less cost as compared to the primary memory. So let's have the comparison of secondary memory with the primary memory. This secondary memory is basically slower than the primary memory. This primary memory is basically manufactured for processing purpose, and this secondary memory is there for storage. Means definitely this secondary memory will be slower. Means इसे secondary memory को access करना या फिर data store करना comparatively slower होगा than the primary memory. This secondary memory is non-volatile, जो हमने अभी देखा in the previous slide, and the primary memory is volatile. This secondary memory stores large amount of data as compared to the primary memory, वो भी हमने अभी देखा. This secondary memory is basically less costly as compared to the primary memory. This secondary memory is basically permanent storage, whereas primary memory is temporary storage, means we can store data permanently here in case of secondary storage. And this secondary storage or the secondary memory can be used externally or internally. But as far as the primary memory is concerned, primary memory is to be mounted on the motherboard itself, means you have to use that primary memory as a part of the motherboard. Example is RAM. We are having memory slots provided on the motherboard to mount the RAM. So these are some points of comparison with the primary memory. In next video lecture, we will see the structure of hard disk drive and some terms. Thank you.